Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to the Ministry of Education and Partners COVID-19 Teaching by Radio program. The Ministry of Education and Partners COVID-19 Teaching by Radio program is a 30-minute radio intervention support program that is meant to provide continuous instruction to keep you academically engaged during this stay-at-home period, as well as preparing you, our 6th, 9th, and 12th graders for the pending Liberia Primary School Certificate Exam, Liberia Junior High School Certificate Exam, and West Africa Senior Secondary Certificate Exam when the time comes. Also, in addition to this academic support, the program is meant to provide psychosocial support for learners, teachers, and parents, and also tips on how you as parents and teachers can provide support to your students and children at home. Now, let's join our teacher for today's lesson.
Hello, learners, parents, and teachers. My name is Anthony S. Temwe, your radio teacher for this lesson. And this is the Ministry of Education and Partners Coronavirus Teaching by Radio program for you, our beloved learners, teachers of the Republic of Liberia. Welcome. Our subject today is biology for students of grade 12, and the topic is human ecology. Please take your pencil, your pen, and copybook and get ready for today's lesson. The objective of our lesson is to help us learn the definition of ecology, state and define the branches of ecology, explain the basic concept of ecology, state the definition and types of habitats, and explain the meaning and basic concept of ecology. So learners, we are going to learn the definition of ecology. We are going to learn the meaning of the branches of ecology, their definition. We are also going to learn the basic concepts of ecology, and we are going to learn the types of habitat and their meaning. Now listen keenly as I read and explain. Ecology is the branch of biology that deals with the relationship of living organisms. Remember, living organisms could be plants, they could be animals, they could be protists, they could be bacteria, or they could be fungi. So ecology is a branch of biology that deals with the relationship of living organisms with one another and with the environment in which they live. So basically, ecology comes from the word "okos," which means home or dwelling place. In another word, ecology is the study of plants and animals in relation to their environment. So it means that you talk about the relationship of plants and animals and other organisms in relationship to their environment. It means that we are talking about ecology. So let us know the different branches of ecology. Since we have talked about the definition of ecology, and we have given you the history of which word ecology derived from, we now want to know the branches of ecology. But there are two basic branches of ecology. The first one is horticology, and the second is synecology. I repeat, horticology and synecology. What is horticology? The word is spelled Autecology. So if we see the prefix in the word, the two words that are combined there are auto and ecology. So if we know the prefix auto, it means self. So ecology is concerned with the study of an individual organism or a single species of organism and its environment. I repeat, ecology is concerned with the study of an individual organism or a single species of organism and its environment. So when we single out an organism and talk about the environment of that organism, how it survives, it means that we are talking about ecology. So ecology is the ecological study of a single species of organism and its surrounding. The study may include feeding behavior, it may include optimal temperature, oxygen, and breathing level. So these are the basic concern of ecology, that is the feeding behavior, how an organism feeds, the temperature of the organism regarding its environment, and the usage of oxygen by that organism. So some examples of ecology will include the study of a single rat in its environment. So when we single out a rat and study its environment, how it interacts with the environment, the kind of food the rat eats, the kind of things the rat does not want to eat, it means that we are studying the ecology of rat, and that is what we refer to as ecology. Another example is to study a single fowl in its environment. So let's just say the chicken, all right, in this environment. So the kind of food the chicken eats, the types of things they don't eat, the way they live, the way they interact with themselves. That's what we're talking about ecology. So the ecological study of a single antelope is also another example of ecology. So when we want to talk about a single antelope in a defined area or habitat, remember a habitat is a dwelling place or all the antelope population in the same habitat. So we take into consideration when we want to study the habitat of an antelope, we want to know the different behavior of the antelope. We want to know the kind of place an antelope will be comfortable to stay. Then we're talking about ecology. So then let's talk also about the second type of ecology. The second branch of ecology we said is synecology. The word is spelled Synecolog. So synecology is concerned with the study of the interrelationship between groups of organisms living together in an area. So this one, we are not going to single out a specific type of organism. We take into consideration different types of organisms that are living in the same area. Let's say, for example, we have cats, we have dogs, we have goats, we have cows, we have sheep, we have the ants, we have humans. All those different types of organisms live in the same area. We want to study how they interact. You want to know where do they live. This kind of study is referred to as synecology. So synecology is the ecological study of different types of plants and animals living together in a defined area or habitat in their surroundings. So synecology will also include the study of different organisms in a river in relation to their aquatic environment. Remember, in the river, we have different types of organisms. We do not find only fish in the river, there are other animals as well that can be found in the river. We have different species of fish that we can find in the river. So if we want to study the different kinds of interaction, you will find reptiles can be found in the river. Sometimes you find some amphibians that can be found in the river. So as well as the fish, you find them in the river. So the kind of way those organisms interact with each other, different type of species they are. It's what we refer to as cell ecology. Another example is the study of different organisms on a farmland in relation to their terrestrial environment. So as we go further, we want to know what is a terrestrial environment. That's a land environment. So if you look at the farmland, you will notice that there are different types of organisms that will feed from that farmland. All right. So different species of organisms that are going to survive from that farmland, we have interaction. You have different kinds of interaction. That kind of study is what we refer to as ecology. So learners, we also want to talk about, like we said in our objective, we want to know the basic concepts of ecology. There are 11 basic concepts of ecology. Of course, we're going to be discussing the major one, which is habitat. So the 11 concepts of ecology include habitat. The second is ecological niche. The third is biosphere. The fourth is the atmosphere. The fifth is the hydrosphere. The sixth is the lithosphere. The seventh is environment. The eighth is the community. Remember, you do not confuse environment with community. The ninth is the biome. The 10th is population, and the last is the ecosystem. We are now going to talk about the habitat. So first we want to know the meaning of habitat. Habitat is defined as an area occupied by a biotic community. When we talk about biotic community, the first thing we take into consideration the prefix BRO, bio, it talks about life. That means a habitat is an area that is occupied by living organisms. So we say biotic community. It is a place that an organism lives. Habitat is a particular area within an environment where an organism can successfully live, and it is the natural dwelling place of an organism. So if you take the organism from its natural dwelling place, you will always notice that there will be a problem. So habitat is one important aspect of ecology that we always take into consideration. Even as humans, when we are taken from our natural habitat or we are taken from our natural dwelling place, there will be some form of effect on our bodies or our health. Is it possible to take him from the terrestrial environment and take us under the water to live? The water is not our natural habitat, so we cannot survive under the water. We survive on the land because we are terrestrial organisms. Therefore, habitat is a localized environment in which an organism lives and which provides for all or almost all of its needs. The diversity of habitats, when we talk about diversity, we talk about different types of living place. So diversity of habitats means different types of living place. So the diversity of habitats found within the Earth ecosystem is enormous. There are too many of them, and they are changing all the time. They may vary through the year or over many years. The reason why we will notice that there will be varying times and varying habitat is because the need for land. When there is an increase for the need of land by man, we will notice the habitat of organisms. So for some of us who read biodiversity at a high level, we refer to that as a loss of our biodiversity. The loss of our biodiversity can be as a result of the need for land by man. It could either be used for farming, and when land is in demand for farming or land is in demand for habitation by man, it means that the other species are going to escape from the very environment we find ourselves. So as a result of that, there's going to be a change in habitat of the organism. So now we want to talk about how all species are adapted to life in their habitat. how the different kinds of species can adapt to life in their environment, in their community, or in their living place. Each species is especially adapted to life in its habitat. For example, an animal is adapted to eat other members of the food chain or food web found in the same habitat. If we have a certain type of animal like a cow, or those animals we refer to as the herbivores, those are animals that eat plants, they get adapted. When they find themselves in an area where you have grass, they definitely have to get themselves adapted to the kind of food they found there. So that place where they found food is what we refer to as the food web. Or we can also refer to it as the food chain. The food chain because different animals eat other animals. The chicken or the fowl will eat other insects. But other animals as well, like the hawk, have the ability to eat the fowl, the younger ones. There are other animals that have the ability to eat the larger fowls. So that kind of chain, where one animal eats another animal, the other eats the other, is what we refer to as a food chain. So the different types of food that are found within that chain is what we refer to as the food web. So some species may be found in different habitats. For example, a plant such as the blackberry may grow in an open habitat, such as a field, or in a shaded one, such as woodland. Its leaves differ in two habitats. So if it grows in an open field, it will have wider leaves. But if it grows in a closed field, you'll notice that this blackberry will have small leaves because they do not have the ability to expand very well. Smaller or congested branches. So some examples of habitat include fish in water, human on land. So then there are different types of habitats. Basically, we have two major types of habitats. And these two major types of habitats include the aquatic and the terrestrial. When we talk about aquatic, it means we're talking about water. But water are of different types as well. So we say there are different types of aquatic habitat. So we want to talk about them one at a time. The first one we will be talking about will be the aquatic habitat. So this refers to water as the home or natural dwelling place of a living organism. Examples of aquatic habitats are the ponds, the seas, the lakes, the rivers, the lagoons, or everywhere you find water and an organism lives in that water, that place becomes an aquatic habitat for living organisms. Those living organisms are aquatic organisms. So in other words, an aquatic ecosystem is an ecosystem in a body of water. Communities of organisms that are dependent on each other and on their environment live in aquatic ecosystems. So every organism that is aquatic must depend on another organism that is aquatic. So the fish cannot come on land to find food to eat. The fish must find food in the water. So its environment is where the food is found. So communities of an organism that are dependent on each other and on their environment live in aquatic ecosystem. But there are two main types of aquatic ecosystem. One is the marine ecosystem, marine, marine, and the second has to do with the freshwater ecosystem. The marine ecosystem and the freshwater ecosystem. Remember, we are talking about the aquatic environment. The aquatic environment or the aquatic habitat. And then we just told you what is an aquatic habitat. We say it has to do with water as a home or a natural dwelling place. But then there are two types of aquatic habitat. One is the marine, and the second is the fresh water. We're going to talk about them. But the marine has to do with the seas, the ocean. The fresh water has to do with river. So there are organisms that can live in the river, but they do not necessarily live in the ocean or live in the sea. Of course, there are some organisms that live in the sea or ocean, but they also cannot live in the river because the habitat, the concentration of those different types of aquatic environment are different. And because of that, not every aquatic organism can live in any aquatic environment. So we want to talk about the marine ecosystem. The marine ecosystem covers approximately 71% of the Earth's surface. Can you imagine this? About 71% of this entire Earth is covered by the marine ecosystem. It must either be an ocean or it must be a sea. And it contains approximately 97% of the planet's water. So almost all of the water we found on the Earth, on this planet, 97% of the water we found on this planet are from the marine ecosystem. That means we're talking about the sea, we're talking about the ocean. They generate 32% of the world's net primary production. So primary products are those products that are used to produce other ones. So you can use a fish to produce other food. You can use marine organisms to produce different types of food. So 32%, about 32% of the world's net primary production comes from the marine ecosystem. They are distinguished from the freshwater ecosystems by the presence of dissolved components or compounds, especially salts. So the marine ecosystem has a huge deposit of dissolved salt. There are other compounds that are found there, but the larger portion of this is salt. So we say approximately 85% of the dissolved materials in seawater are sodium and chlorine. That's why we say sodium chloride, of course, is salt, right? Sodium chloride. So a bulk of what we find in the ocean, bulk of what we find in the sea, the compound, the substances we find in the sea, 85% will comprise of sodium and chlorine. These are the two substances, these are the two elements that combine to form salt. So you know from the chemistry aspect, combination of sodium and chloride, it gives us sodium chloride. Sodium and chlorine gives us sodium chloride, which we refer to as salt. So seawater has an average salinity of 35 parts per thousand of water. But the actual salinity varies among different marine ecosystems. So different marine ecosystems can have different level of concentration. The concentration of the ecosystem is what we refer to as the salinity. So now we've talked about the marine ecosystem. We talk about the percentage of it that is found on the earth. We talk about the products that we can get from the marine ecosystem. We also talk about the concentration of the marine ecosystem. Now, let us take a short COVID-19 health tip and be back.
Coronavirus is spread via droplets. When a person coughs or sneezes, the droplets land on surfaces and are picked up on the hands of others and spread further. People catch the virus when they touch their infected hands to their mouth, nose, or eyes. It follows that the single most important thing you can do to protect yourself is keep your hands clean by washing them frequently with soap and water or hand sanitizer.
Welcome back, students. Now we want to talk about the freshwater ecosystem. The freshwater ecosystem includes the river, the ponds, irrigated farmland, the lakes, the streams, or the ditches. Or these different types of water environment are what we refer to as the freshwater ecosystem. Not much can be obtained from the freshwater ecosystem. The freshwater ecosystem does not have salt in it, of course, so the salinity is going to be so low. The concentration of the freshwater ecosystem is going to be so low. So basically, you do not find organisms that have gel-like skin to be found in the marine ecosystem, but we can find organisms with jelly-like skin to live in the rivers. Let's take for example the frog. On the skin of the frog, there are jelly-like substances that are found on the skin. Because of that, this frog cannot survive in the ocean because the salinity, the concentration of the salt in the ocean will get rid of the jelly-like substance that is found on the frog. Our next type of habitat, he said, is the terrestrial ecosystem. Remember, we said there are two basic types of ecosystem. We have the aquatic ecosystem and we have the terrestrial ecosystem. For the aquatic ecosystem, we said there are two basic types. We have the marine ecosystem and then we have the freshwater ecosystem. The terrestrial ecosystem or the terrestrial habitat refers to land as the natural home or natural dwelling place of a living organism. So examples of terrestrial habitat include the farmland, the parks, the desert, the rainforest, the savanna land. So all those kind of places we find all around us are referred to as terrestrial environment. So any animal or any organism that lives in any one of those environments is referred to as a terrestrial organism. Learners, today we learn that ecology is the branch of biology that deals with the relationship of living organisms with one another and with the environment in which they live. You also learn that it is derived from the word ecos, which means home or dwelling place. So, ecosystem or the ecology is the study of plants and animals in relation to their environment. So now, learners, I want you to write down these questions. You can answer and study them. There are 4 questions we have for you. We are hoping you can write them. Question number 1. Outline the general characteristics of each of the following. Outline the general characteristics of each of the following. A. Aquatic habitat. B. Terrestrial habitat. A is aquatic habitat and B is terrestrial habitat. Number 2, define the following words. A is ecology, B is horticulture, and C is synecology. Question number 3, list any 2 types of habitat you know. Number 4 question is, state any 3 organisms found in each of the habitats you listed in question number 3. So, listeners, you can continue reading on this topic using the following books: the Archaeola series, biology book, or you can also read the Essential Biology book. If you have any questions or need clarification on today's lesson, please text it to the following numbers: 0555 811 309. The next time we will be meeting on the same station, and we will be discussing the topic human health and diseases. Goodbye. Amen. Amen. Amen.